I just realized. So, well, whatever. I could talk about it during my part. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so it's great to see everybody officially now that we started recording. Thanks for being here as always. And so today, as I mentioned in my email, we've got kind of a special format. I'm just going to do some quick introductory things that have to do with the personalized education plan, because that's something that your students are likely, either they've done it already, which is great, or they're working on it this week. And so I just want to make sure that everybody has the ability to sort of know how to mentor your students through that process. And then I'm going to turn it over to you all, because there are a few different people who have very generously decided that they would not mind speaking about their experience in the class. And so I'm going to turn things over to how it was for you, your successes, your challenges. I think that'll really help us as some of us are looking forward to teaching this again in Flex 2. Some of us are looking forward to teaching it again in the spring. But no matter what, I think it's going to be really useful to hear from each other. So really quickly, I am going to share my screen to talk about Focus to Career. So as you may have noticed, the personalized education plan asks your students to re-engage with Focus 2. And so I just want to remind everybody how to help your students find Focus 2, especially if they are having trouble remembering where to go. Maybe they didn't complete their reflection. That happened to a few students. And so maybe, I don't know if you're letting them do that now, but even if they didn't complete the reflection, they will still need to engage with Focus to Career when they do their personalized education plan. So Focus to Career is this little icon in my RCC, and I'm in my own account right now. We have access to this. You can actually go through the assessments. And when you click on this, and actually, can you see the login now? Or do you still see my RCC?
No, see the login.
You see the login, perfect. Thank you so much. Just want to make sure. So you have to create an account, and oops, of course, I can't remember what my password is. I thought I did this last night. Hang on, I will get this right. There we go. Okay. So if I were showing my students this, I would go in as a student. And so you go in as a student. You can go in as an administrator as well, but the students will only have one option. They'll only have the student option. And so you'll see that I did all of these over the summer. I was very curious about it. I wanted to see what the students were going to experience. And so what your students should have done is they should have done the 3 on top, and they should have done all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Now, if they didn't do them all for their reflection, okay, fair enough. They probably didn't get a full credit on their reflection. They don't need all of it for the personalized education plan. What they really need to do is to go scroll down and get to the bottom part here where it says explore the possibilities. So here you can explore any occupation in this link here, or you can explore occupations by job family. And either way, it's perfectly fine. I prefer this one myself. When you click on this, you're going to be taken to this sort of search bar. Now, what I've noticed, and I need to talk to somebody in advisement about this, when I try to search here, oh, it worked finally. It wasn't working the other day, so that's great news. When you type in professor, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of professor options here. And one of the greatest parts of this is whether the outlook for this profession is bright or not. And so if I scroll down to my job, the outlook is apparently not bright, alas, but nonetheless, I can click on, English language and literature professor, and I can look at the overview, the job tasks, what the work interest profile is, how it compares to me. Apparently this is not the best fit for me. I don't know. I think it's pretty great, but hey, what does Focus to Career know anyway? The skills involved, the values, the work conditions, the education requirements. This is where your students will definitely need to look at the education requirements, because one of the questions on their personalized education plan asks them, do you need education after RCC to do the career that you've identified? And obviously in my case, the answer was yes, I would need much, much more education if I were in our students' perspectives. Then it talks about common majors. This is also going to be important because look, one of the questions asks them about which degree at RCC they need to go for in order to pursue this occupation. And the degrees are listed here, right? The possible, degrees here. And there are maybe some, we could argue there are more that you could do here, but certainly those are fine degrees. And then if you look at the outlook, they have to actually engage with this, the outlook for their field. So, this isn't terrible. And then if you look at the earnings, they need to choose a state. So they can choose any state they want. And if they want to choose the great state of New York, they can hit submit. And then there will be information provided to them about what kinds of what the wages are for this profession. So I just wanted to run through that real quick and to see if there are any questions about, this and how to help your students with this if they're having trouble. Anything on your mind?
I just wanted to say it was the extra notes that you gave us to help them do the login for the PEP were really helpful. Thank you so much for those.
Oh, good, Cindy. I'm just glad they worked. That's great to know. Fantastic. Yeah. Excellent. So they'll need to refer to this, and if they have any trouble accessing the software itself, if they have trouble logging in, what you want to do is direct them to your school's advisors. Okay, your school's advisors will be able to help them log into Focus 2. If once they're in Focus 2, they're having trouble understanding what to do, I think hopefully this little overview will help you be able to guide them. If you're really struggling, I'm always happy to help, but just let me know. So it hasn't been taking my students terribly long. I know I'm working with our honors population, and sometimes they're better prepared, but the students my students at least haven't had a ton of questions. They've been okay completing this pretty much. So my hope is that the same is true for yours. And then the only other thing I wanted to say about before I turn it over to you all is, just remember last night and this morning, there was a slight hiccup. So some of your students may have gotten the email this morning. IR sent a message out with a link. And so if you can give your students time in class this week, if you're still meeting them, or if you can send out a Blackboard announcement, that's what I did last night. I sent out a Blackboard announcement, having them keep an eye out for that message from IR-requests. Then they can complete the survey. The survey is the same as the one that is a normal course evaluation that was given in paper, with 3 extra questions on it for IttS. Those 3 extra questions will not be factored into RTP, okay? So just remember your course evaluations, if you go through the RTP process, those are a part of that process. Those 3 extra questions are just extra for the purpose of this assessment and will not factor into RTP. And they have to do with 3 things. Waymaker and the study plans, there's a question about that. There's a question about Focus 2, and there's a question about technology. But those 3 questions will not be pushed into anybody's RTP process, okay? Anything else on your mind before I turn it over? I'm gonna start with Meg and Talia, who we're gonna hear from a bunch of different people today, but I wanna start with them because I know Meg needs to leave. Just so you know, they're not formally team teaching, but they kind of stuck together as a pair, and so that's why I invited them as a pair, and I think that's a really cool strategy too, so maybe you want to speak to that a little bit. But of course there'll be plenty of time at the end, so for any questions you think of. So I'm going to stop sharing. I can make anybody a co-host if you want to share anything, and you can take it away.
Talia, I don't know if do you want me to talk a little bit about what we did?
Sure, whatever. Yeah, you could start, Meg.
We
And I'll
just,
we could, and then I'll say what I did specifically to my course.
yeah, no, we just kind of collaborated at the beginning. There were a lot of things going on, obviously, last minute. And so we thought we could help each other out, especially Talia has a million courses she's teaching this semester. And so we really wanted to work together on creating the sort of nitty gritty stuff, the announcements for our classes, the main overall announcements. Obviously, we had to send separate announcements weekly for other things. But we also sort of worked together on rubrics, and Eileen helped us too. So we got rubrics, assignments, what do you call it, in the course, the syllabus, doing the course outline, making sure that the dates for that were on there. So we kind of worked
grid, and also the flip grids too.
Flip grids, thank you. Yeah, so we did discussions, and Talia was really sort of you were the one who had to do all of that because I hadn't used Flipgrid before this semester. So we set up those discussion boards together, and we just collaborated and talked about it together to make sure that we were thinking the same way about things. So it worked out extremely well. It actually saved me a lot of man hours. So I was extremely grateful for that. But the things I think, or did you want to talk more about what we did together before I hop into like what I didn't anticipate or what I enjoyed?
Well, just to clarify, you're both teaching asynchronously, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Katie. Sorry, I forgot that there are people teaching in person and synchronously. Yeah, we're both teaching asynchronously. And so we were really thinking about, all right, what information do we need to communicate to our students that they could potentially be confused about? So we thought about that ahead of time and we tried to circumvent issues. We were able to catch a few of those, like we were able to anticipate some of that. But at the same time, there were some things that I didn't think would be an issue that were an issue in my class. And I don't think they were an issue in Talia's class. So you never know. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So some of the things that I didn't anticipate for this course were that I got student responses on those automated emails, the positive emails were overwhelming. Students loved those positive emails and they wrote me back. And Katie, you had said that before. And like, I believed you, but it was weird to like experience it myself. And they were so happy that I was so positive with them. And it was awesome that I didn't actually have to send out the emails. What blew my mind though was that I sent out the emails when students needed help, when they were struggling, and I got 0 responses to those emails. So I feel like I spent all of this time going into the system and like sending out these emails and even like trying to craft those a little bit better so that they sounded more like me. But students really, by and large, they just didn't respond to those ones for some reason. So I thought that was really interesting. When I offered help, they either weren't interested or I guess they just didn't want it. So the other thing that I experienced, and I'm wondering if you guys did as well, was that students, I never would have thought this, but students really struggle with logging in, like logging out of their personal Gmails and making sure that they're logged into their RCC emails. I would have thought that that's something, especially with the younger generation, that would have been like second nature. Like, oh yeah, I got to switch between these 2 emails. It's something that I have to do all the time. But that is something that they are overtly just not familiar with. And I can't tell you how many emails, not just in the IttS course, but in my other courses, how many emails I've had to send out to say, you're not logged into your RCC email, you're logged out. And then they'll send me like screenshots and I'm like, yeah, see in the top right, that's your personal Gmail. That's not your RCC email. And so it's just been mind-boggling to me that it's like these little tiny things with technology, not even the big overwhelming things that I was expecting. It's the tiny things like switching your email address that I've spent a lot of time communicating with students on. And even though I sent out emails explaining that would be a situation that they needed to do, I still had to address that. So I thought that was very interesting. So like that, simple technology fixes, like restarting your browser and your computer seem alien to my students. And so I find that at least twice a week, I send out an email saying as much. And that's been frustrating for me. I had some problems with Flipgrid with students, but it got back to that RCC email thing where students would say, I can't log in, it's asking me for the discussion code. And I'm like, that's because you're in your personal Gmail account. You are not logged into RCC. If you are, it would take you directly there. And there were some students who struggled so much that I just ended up sending them the code because I just couldn't, like, it was so difficult, like balancing it. I think the other thing that I found very interesting was that I noticed, and I had mentioned this to Katie and Talia and Stephen Burke as well, that I noticed that there's a direct correlation between the number of students who are currently failing my IttS and the number of students who fail English 101 for their first time. And so that to me is extremely interesting. And so I want to see sort of what that is, like what the connection is there, what they're missing, because it seems it's a little too spot on for it to be random. I think there's something there with those initial classes that they're not connecting to. There's something happening. And so I want to sort of dig deeper on that. The only other thing I was thinking about, oh, so you brought up, Katie, in your email, the points thing that Talia had mentioned, how the points are not adding up. I actually made it even worse because I'm teaching this course in Flex 2. And so I copied my course into, I imported my course from Flex 1 into Flex 2 so that I didn't have to redo everything that I had added in. And in so doing, I now have doubles of those assignments that we can't see on my, yeah, so it got even stickier and you can't delete
Yeah.
it. So, and even though I
And
deleted them from the modules, like I deleted the modules and they're not technically there, they're still
yeah.
showing up on the grade book. So,
So yeah, and so, you know, I appreciate that Talia brought this to my attention. Just so you know, we don't have a solution there yet, because what's happening is we reached out to Brian Gomez. Talia, you reached out to Brian Gomez, and you know, he said it doesn't seem to be a problem on our end. Talk to Lumen. I talked to Lumen. They said nothing is locked. You should be able to delete things. I tried to delete them from my course. Many of you have tried to delete them from your course, and it's not working. So it's back to Brian now, back to e-learning. Let me ask you this, since we're talking about this now. What I could do very easily is I could take, and it would be something easily modifiable. I could create a Google Sheet to do the calculations for what I have, the weighted percentages that I have, and send that out to everybody, and you could modify it however you wanted. If that would help. Obviously, it's not a solution for this Blackboard issue. We want our students to be able to see their grades on Blackboard, but while e-learning is working on it, because remember, our grades are going to be due for Flex 1 at the end of next week. So, you know, we've got
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, go ahead. So, I mean,
I didn't mean to interrupt. I just did a point system. I just went by points. Each one was worth points and I counted them up. It was 490. 70% of 490 is 343 points. So that's what I sent out, because what I freaked out, because all of a sudden last week I looked at my students' points and I was like, 1,000? This student has 200 and I know they did everything. How I can't have 100% failure in this class. So that's why I was like, oh no, it's not 1,000 points. So
it's
why.
probably better. I think that's the easiest way for everybody to just readjust the denominator, right? And say, you know, the denominator is not 1,000, the denominator is 750 or whatever, right? But we are going to work on the larger issue of, you know, why is this happening? Why can we not delete? When I try to do it in the grade book, it goes through the system fine. It says, you know, it doesn't give me an error. It just doesn't delete anything. And so it's very strange. We are in touch with e-learning though. Eileen, I'm not sure when Flex grades are due, to be quite honest, but I assume it's got to be by the end of next week-ish, because Flex 2 starts on the 26th.
So Kathy Hopkins asked us to make sure that we get them in pretty early, because so this way, if anybody fails, they can take the Flex 2 course.
Yeah, the last possible date to teach this class is next Monday, right? That's the technical end of Flex 1 because of our Monday issue, right? We had an issue with enough Mondays. And so I think, Diana, that's a great suggestion, to just get them in, try to get them in as soon as possible. Yeah. Is there anything, I so appreciate, Meg and Talia, that you were, you know, able to speak on this, and you have some great strategies and great challenges and questions for us to think about. Is there anything else that we should know?
Well, this is across the board. I'm going to start doing with all of my students in every single class, because I'm teaching 8 different classes. I literally got an email yesterday that said, hey, can you let me know if I forgot anything? That was the entire email. No subject, no nothing. So I can share my screen with you if you want, and I could show you what I've done if you want. And this is going into every single Blackboard shell from now on. I'm putting a point to it, and the students have to do it within the first week, because I've had it with these emails of, hey, what's up? Can you tell me what I missed? I'm like, who are you? You know, when you're teaching 150 students, I'm like, I take pride in knowing a lot of my students, and first of all, even if the student, I know them from 5 classes, they should not email me like that. So I can share my screen, right?
Yes, I just made you co-host.
Okay, hold on, I'm just getting into here. Okay, let me just do this.
Means you're in charge of bringing the hors d'oeuvres.
Oh yeah, well, it's Katie. You see my pantry. I'm good to go with that. All right, so
If by hors d'oeuvres we mean Malamars, then yes.
yeah, Mallmar's chocolate covered raisins. I have a Costco, membership. It's just not doing good. I'm not using it well. So the other thing I was going to say is I do tons of announcements. So, tons and tons and tons of announcements. So I think that they're important. I do, but even though I'm teaching this asynchronously, I do the same amount of announcements for all of my distance learning classes. I think that's really important. But so I just added this in course information, and this is going to be, oh, did I not, is it not in here? It has to be in here. Oh my goodness. Is it in content maybe? I know I added it in. Oh, here it is. So I added how to email a professor. All right, a step-by-step guide. And I'm going to, make sure you need to send the email, check your syllabus and course outline first, use your school email, write a clear subject line, include a proper email greeting, remind who you are, get straight to the point, end an email politely, proofread, put yourself in the professor's shoes. So, I'm going to copy and paste this into every single course that I teach from now on, because I think that what's happening is with emails is appalling. I don't know if you all have a different experience with that. So if you do, and you're getting emails that are appropriate, please let me know what you're doing, because, I'd love to learn. I'd love to know.
So Talia, that is an awesome strategy. As Emily just showed in the chat, this is a worldwide problem, a global issue. Can you do us a favor and copy and paste it into a Google Doc, and maybe, then I can put it in our resources folder, because I think everybody would want to put that in their course in the future.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it, it's going to have a point. I'm going to make it an assignment in everyone. So it's going to be low stakes, a couple of points, but it will still be something that's a deliverable, because I think without deliverables, students don't take them seriously. So that, and I'm also doing a Blackboard for every single one of my courses from now on. I'm putting in a Blackboard skills module. Do you know how to take a test? Do you know how to attach an assignment? So on and so forth. So I think I'm stripping down to the basics. So my take on this IttS class is I'm going to add these stripped down basics right at the beginning, in your face. Do you know how to submit an attachment? Do you know how to send an email? Do you know how to take a quiz? And do you know how to do these very basic things? Because I find that that's wonderful information, but students don't know these basic communication skills. So I want to strip it down. So that's my take from it, and just lots and lots of communication, because when you see them in person, it's different. But when even distance learning, even synchronously, I find that they need a lot of reminders. They've got a lot going on outside of school. So I want to help them as much as I can.
Well, thank you both for sharing everything. I mean, you've already sparked a great conversation. I really appreciate that. So we'll move forward now, and welcome Xenia. So glad you can join us. Xenia will be speaking in a few minutes. I want to move forward to Bert. Bert, would you mind, sharing your perspective on how the class went for you, challenges, successes, etc.?
Sure. Excuse the mask. I'm in auto tech right now, and we have to wear the mask at all times. So
it's a great look.
I don't know about that, but it is what it is. Regarding successes, a couple of things. One, the videos and the PowerPoint. I use the videos quite a bit, and that has really created a lot of engagement in the class by the use of the videos. The faculty resources, where the view messages, which we talked about, is very, very good. The students are very appreciative that they get an email stating whether or not they're doing good, bad, or they're indifferent. So the view the message part is really great. Viewing the history is also fabulous. I enjoy it. I use it quite a bit. The course content at a glance, that is also very, very helpful. There's tons of information in there that I utilize quite a bit regarding my successes. As far as ideas are concerned, Module 4 it talks a little bit about diversity, but it doesn't really touch too much about inclusion. You cannot have one and not the other. You need to have both. So my suggestion is in that particular chapter, they need to talk about inclusion in addition. Diversity is fine, but inclusion has to be talked about, and it's not really mentioned that much at all. But I think they need to include a little part about inclusion. Some of the challenges that I'm faced with right now is regarding the quizzes. There are a few students that are still behind the quizzes, and there are 4 students that have not even they have not completed the focus 2. And then today they really got it from me. I really really got into them today because I had to let them understand this is really the foundation of moving forward into your career at RCC. And it's like building a house. For the house to stand, it has to be firm. It has to have a solid foundation. And consider this as building a house. And by you not doing the focus 2, it means that you're not putting together your foundation to really have a successful career at RCC. So I think it really got to quite a few people because I've been looking at my computer and I've been seeing a lot of things coming in. So that whole procrastination, they really procrastinate quite a bit, quite a few of them. And I was looking to see if there's a direct correlation between attendance and completing the task as well as the focus too. And there's no correlation because there are some folks that have very good attendance, attend every single session, and they have not completed the focus too. And then there are folks who are very poor attendance and they have completed the focus too. So to me, there's not a direct correlation between completion of focus 2 and the attendance. So I don't know if anyone could maybe give me some ideas in terms of how to get these folks, the 4 individuals that have yet to complete the focus 2, how to get to those students and try to help them, because at this point I have done everything as far as making suggestions, or I've given them, they have my phone number, you have my email addresses, call me, talk to me. We are in a chat if you feel like you do not want to talk out loud, but it's for some reason it's not getting to them. So I'm a bit concerned about the 4 students.
I have a suggestion. I'm still waiting on a bunch of focus 2. I'm okay with. I'm still waiting on their personalized education plan, but I've sent out, and I think you've done this though. I sent out announcements, and I think Diana, you asked me if I was emailing. I sent out I use announcements, but I click on the box that says send an email. So the announcement is both in Blackboard and it also gets sent as an email. And I know this sounds maybe, I don't know, maybe a little juvenile, but I put up a Google image of kind of, and I find that some students have told me, I really like it because it catches my eye and it's different than all of the other emails I get. So that helps, but that's just my craziness. But I've been really laying it out them. I give them very black and white. You have to go in and look at your points. If you do not earn 343 points, you will not pass this class. This is a mandatory class. You will have to take it again. I'm sure you don't want to take this again, so go in and finish X, Y, and Z. I give them, but it sounds like you've already done that, so maybe it's not very helpful, but I've done it many times. It's not just one time. I've started doing it mid-semester, or mid-class rather. And almost every week they're hearing from me, like my tagline is, remember, you need a certain amount of points to pass this course, and I write mandatory course. So I just, I try, it's like a fine line. I don't want to be jerky about it, but, I want them to understand that I'm not going to just pass them because it's a 1 credit pass fail course. I think students think pass fail, I don't have to do anything.
Right.
And I think that's what we need to get, into telling them. So it's been helpful. I've been getting more, once I started doing that, I get like every announcement that goes out that has that on there, I get a few that come in.
A good idea. Okay. Great.
I do the same thing when it comes to the announcements. I always make sure that there's a start and an end date, but at the same time, there's always an email that goes out immediately with the announcement. But then I also have, which is nice, the students then email me right back from that announcement. So I know it's exactly from them and the questions that they need.
Cool. That's it.
This is great, and there's great info in the chat too. You know, some great suggestions and ideas as well. So thank you, Bert. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us?
Let's see. Let me just take a quick look here. Challenges. I talked about the challenges. Ideas. Module 4. They need to include inclusion in there.
Yes. So by the way, I'm actually doing a professional development thing with Lumen right now, and one of the sort of the mastermind of the college success textbook is the facilitator of that, and I've shared a few insights with that person. So I'll share more, and I think we're going to have an opportunity to say that. One of the things that I said to her was, my students felt like that social interaction and diversity module, that was written in 2016, but
right,
it needs to be updated.
Right, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, given what's going on currently in the world, we need a lot more there, and so that's important, and I think they know that. I think it sounds like they know that. The conversation I haven't had yet is the one that Emily brought up last time about whether that the part of the module that on health that talks about sexual assault and the focus being on don't drink, don't do drugs, is that a little bit victim shaming? Is that a little bit problematic in terms of we're focusing on things you can do to prevent yourself from being assaulted, but we're not talking about why people assault others in the first place and how people shouldn't do that, right? And strategy and those kinds of things. And so I need to share that feedback with them, but I'm happy to put you in touch with this person if you have specific feedback you want to give about the text. You can also send it to Laura Murray, whose contact information I think you do have. But again, if there's anybody, if you want to send information to Lumen, feel free. I will give you every email I know. Okay? So it's helpful.
Right.
They appreciate it.
Right. There's one other thing I wanted to mention, because I had a meeting with Kaltura. I had a meeting with one of the reps from Kaltura, and the problem was once you load the recording, can you post it in Blackboard so that if a student is absent, it could go to the Blackboard and go and look at the recording? We tried several ways and we couldn't do it. We just couldn't do it. So I think they're looking into it. I'm not sure whether or not they have rectified the problem, but they were looking into it, because I had a student that had an emergency in Florida, and by going to Florida, upon her return, she has to quarantine for 10 days, which means she's going to miss at least 2 sessions. So I wanted to record the lecture so that she could go into Blackboard and she could actually listen and review the lecture. But at that moment, it was not possible at that moment. So that was the issue with I had with Kaltura.
Yeah, and so just to clarify, in case you're not sure what Kaltura is, it's a piece of technology that can allow you, among other things, to actually be teaching in person and have that teaching moment captured by multiple cameras in the room. And then you can, you're supposed to be able to do what Bert just wanted to do, which is why I'm confused. Right. But it's a pilot program that the college is working on, and I'm sorry that you're having some issues there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully they'll get resolved. So thank you so much, Bert, for everything that you said, and great conversation happening in the chat as well. I want to turn now to Cindy, one of our nursing colleagues, and Cindy, definitely curious to hear your perspective on how this went, teaching in the School of Nursing, Health, and Wellness.
Thanks. This has been such an eye-opening experience for me, because I'm used to my kind of rabid nursing students chasing me for knowledge, and they're so enthusiastic. And this was not that experience for me, which was disappointing. You know, I got the course kind of late in the game, but it seemed like a really nice, easy to use setup. And I thought, oh, this is going to go really smoothly. And, you know, I took the first class, I showed them how to use it. I thought they understood. And then they just never understood. Like a good chunk of my class, I set up private meetings with them. And half the time they wouldn't show up. If they did show up, I would have them screen share with me and I would show them what to click on, and they still didn't get it. So it's been such an interesting struggle. But let me just look at my notes for a second. Talia, you kind of touched on that idea of this being a very ambitious course for these students. And that was my feeling, that everything covered in this course is so great. There's so much good information. But my students are asking questions like, what's the difference between an associate and a bachelor's degree? And I'm talking to them about these sort of grander ideas. But that's a really good question, and we should totally answer that. So I think for me, my biggest lesson learned going into Flex 2 with this course is I'm going to really try to prioritize what I'm teaching and take smaller bites, because I didn't feel like I met the objectives that I had set in my own head when I first started the course. For me, the diversity unit actually was my best. It actually led to some really interesting conversation. The students were really engaged in that conversation. So I really appreciated that it was a topic that's so much in the forefront of everybody's mind. It was great. Let's see, the positive feedback, the 3 or 4 students who actually did care about my class and did all the things, they loved the positive feedback. And I was so grateful that they got the positive feedback, because they didn't get my attention like they should have for their positive work. And so I felt less like I was neglecting them. So that was lovely. Let's see. Definitely using the breakout rooms more in the future. I started using them about halfway through. Those were fantastic to kind of get them to try to talk to each other. Although I did get reports back that sometimes the breakout rooms were very quiet, and they would all just sit there and kind of stare at the blank screens because nobody turns their screens on in my live remote class. It's frustrating. I'm going to bring in some guest stars next Flex. I'm going to bring in some people from around campus that they need to know. Inez has been good enough to join us. She's from the counseling center for our school. So she's coming in, trying really hard to get a hold of financial aid, but they are tough to track down, but I'm going to get them because I really want them to come in and speak from their point of view so the students have a face, because they're all new to us. So that I thought was one of my plans. And Sage. So Katie, you and I spoke about trying to get Sage involved with my students that are just ghosting my class. Like they come on in the beginning, and then if you call on them during the class, there's just no response at all. Because basically they turn it on and then they walk away and do other things. So I put in some Sage alerts on a few of my students who are not doing well. You know, one of them I got feedback on, and it said that, you know, the professor's helping me, everything will be fine. This is a student who has now accumulated, I want to say 53 points so far in the class. She's not fine, and I can't get a hold of her. So, and then the other 5 reports that I put into Sage, I haven't gotten any response from that they've been able to reach the students either. So that's still a challenge. The reaction buttons in Zoom, using those to make sure people are still there when their video is off, that's been great. Because I'm like, all right, everybody, thumbs up. Let me know what you think. And if the thumb doesn't come up, you know they're gone. So that was a useful tip somebody threw at me at some point I liked. The email, I did make an assignment out of writing a proper email. That was something that I used. I had the wonderful resource. The peer mentors were part of this experience for some of us. And so I did use my peer mentor. They had to write emails to her as if she was the professor. So it gave her some practice responding to those kinds of emails. You know, and then those who participated, I think it was a useful exercise. But yeah, fascinating challenge, this course. I'm looking forward to trying it again with my expectations in the correct orientation. Yeah.
Well, you know, really interesting. Thank you so much for what you shared, but I think it'll be really interesting to hear, you know, what you think after the second time, right? Do you get a different group? You know, what the things you're trying, do they make an impact? So you know, it's going to be fascinating. But I saw a lot of nodding while you were talking, so you're not alone, right? Clearly, the challenges that you are facing are faced by others, and I think not just in our ITTS course, but also, you know, other courses as well. The students walking away from their computer is a challenge. Yeah, so thank you so much. And then our final speaker for the day before we open it up to just all general Q&A and discussion is Xenia. Xenia, thanks so much for joining us, and so glad you've taught the course. I would love to hear from your perspective.
Thank you so much. So I too have some notes that I would like to share. Okay, so successes. Okay, so I held class on campus. So it was interesting because that first day, everybody's a little nervous. Does everybody have their mask on? And if you don't, we need to go have a conversation and get you what you need so you can come back. So that's something that we were able to do. Everyone knew the protocol, let's go. And sometimes they called themselves out like, oh, where's my mask? I have to go find it. So they were monitoring themselves. Great conversation. I enjoyed having the conversations, and they enjoyed being with one another. Getting to know each other. Every class I tried to do a check-in because there were some weeks and weekends where we maybe had to shut off the PowerPoints and just talk. So what's going on? So how are you feeling? And then we had some celebrations. We had people getting their first jobs. We had people, and they were sharing this in class, and I had to thank them every time. Thank you, because you didn't have to share that, but you did. So I appreciated that. They even shared some of their dramas, which also added to some people being able to feel some type of connection. One of the first questions was, when is the campus going to be fully open? Like they were ready for that interaction and they craved it. So to have the class on campus, I think was really good. Some of them said this was my only class on campus, and my attendance was 100%. Every week they came, they showed up. Now, did they do the work? Is the question, but they showed up. They were engaged. We had 100% attendance. And, you know, I even had a student ask me to be her mentor. I thought that was so sweet. How sweet was that? The students weren't surprised. So expectations were set at the very beginning. I did a mid-year review. I think it was during the Focus 2 reflection. I had individual meetings with each of my students during that class time. And if they missed anything from the beginning of class to the mid-year, they had the time to do it and they worked together. My concern is some of the challenges were, can we get the work done? What's going on? I had to make those same referrals. But when you listen to some of the stories and our individual meetings, some of them just needed the time and the space. So being able to create that time and space in the class, I think was helpful. They may not have known where the library was at that moment. They may not have come to another class, another day, another session, but they knew they can come to this class during this time, and if need be, have some time to get some work done. And I think that was important. I did make some referrals. I did the mid-year and end of, like my last class was last night. So I did, as they were dismissing, I dismissed them individually. And I said, okay, this is where we are. You are dismissed. Give me an elbow. All right, next. Okay, this is where you are. Well, what is it looking like? What are we going to do? What's our plan? All right, give me an elbow. Talk to you soon. All right, so that was my way. So ideas for the next session. I'm looking at advisement plans and information that people would love to have at the very beginning. Something that just came up was writing style. If there's a particular style for your school, I think something really, maybe that's something we want to discuss. Maybe we want to continue to share those resources. More cahoots. Thank you, Katie. More cahoots. I mean,
I love those things.
I mean, they had a blast. They had a blast. And again, being cognizant of just providing them some time. How you feeling? What's going on? Okay. I reviewed the percentage. I had a question actually when it came to study plans versus quizzes. Study plans is for assistance and the quizzes are what's being graded, like the 25%.
Yeah, so the study plans, when they work through the formative assessments in the study plans, they are given points.
Yes.
And if you want, you can make those points a part of your participation grade. So that's personally what I chose to do.
Okay.
And reminded them, listen, especially if some of them are either reticent or they're not able to speak up in class, to remind them that this is a way to get participation points, just in the course of doing your work.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you for that guidance, because they were moving through the quizzes, and there were some moments where they would come to me honestly and say, "Hey, miss, I kind of messed up on this quiz. Do you think you could give me another shot?" I'm like, if you think that'll help, everyone, if you have a concern or comment or question, make sure you're talking with me. And I actually gave them extra credit on the email. They had to put a signature in it. I gave them a video and I said, watch the video. If you can send me an email with your signature and a subject, please, then I may give you some extra credit. So I'm getting emails, and I enjoyed the class for myself. I enjoy being with the students. And my hope is that with them actually connecting, it gave them a different sense of what it would look like at RCC. So being on campus, they seem to feel safe. 100% attendance. We were happy to see each other, right? And then
How many did you have?
We had 12. I think I had 11 or 12 students. 11 or 12 students, and I think it depends on what room you're in, what's going to be what's going to be appropriate. And then they had questions about advisement. They had questions. I had them do the scavenger hunt. The hunt, they had to do it online. So where do you find this, guys? What's the telephone number? Now I need to know my financial aid information. Who's got financial aid? All right, thank you. And share with me what they do. What does it say on the website? So being able to do something like that was fun. They do individual work, even though they're in the space together. And what else? I always say, you all have multiple opportunities to succeed. So let's figure out which one you're going to choose. And, I enjoyed it. I think videos, Kahoots, incorporating some more materials. We saw some of the videos. I was like, okay, let's see if we can find something that kind of matches that information. Let's see if we could get some reflection time going in. And that was good. And they also reminded me to share. Hey, well, how was your weekend, miss? I'm like, are you all trying to waste time in class? Or do you really want to get to know me? So I always had something to share from the past weekend that I didn't mind sharing in class. So that I truly enjoyed. And, I felt like they were really going to miss the class after yesterday. And I was like, you know, I played with them and said, it's not like I care about you guys or anything. So, you know, you can have my email and let me know if you need anything as time progresses. So that it was a great experience.
I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you so much for sharing. You know, it sounds like a lot of people, a lot of the challenges are going across the board, right? I'm actually a little curious. I know I didn't ask you in advance, Emily, so I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but you know, you have such great ideas in the chat, and you also taught in person. Was your experience similar to Xenia's at all? Different at all?
Super similar, actually.
Okay.
It was how you said that you enjoyed it for yourself. That's totally how I felt. Our conversations are always really good. The group really connected with each other. Our last day is tomorrow, and they asked if we can meet next week to watch a movie together in class. Like, they want to just meet even though class ended. So they all have a really good vibe with each other and have exchanged contact information and everything. And yeah, our conversations are always really good. It was funny, actually, when you said also that they remind you to share. They do that to me too. I'll ask them, I always do the icebreaker question in the beginning, and they'll be sitting there answering, and I'm like, all right, well, we ready to get started? And they're like, wait, you didn't answer. So it's pretty cute. But yeah, no, it was like, I would be looking forward to teaching it again. I think it was a really, really good experience.
Cool. Excellent. So what, you know, given what's going on, you know, thank you so much, everybody who chimed in, you know, Talia, Meg, who had to leave, Bert, Cindy, Xenia, thank you for being generous with your time and putting some notes together and everything. You know, obviously this is, you know, being recorded. And so more than just this group will benefit. But what else is on people's minds? I mean, anything you heard that you have questions about, or a struggle that you had that wasn't mentioned, or something you want to know more about? The floor is open.
I just want to make sure that I'm doing the grading in the correct way. Can you speak about grading a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, so, well, we've had a little bit of a technical issue in the sense that if you look at the point total, you know, it's including those hidden assignments. So if you didn't use the hidden assignments, which I think most of us did not, I know some of our colleagues like John in the School of Business and Professional Studies did, but you know, you would have to then adjust the total for your students, because we can't seem to delete those hidden assignments. And we've reached out to e-learning, not sure what's going on exactly, but you would just want to remind your students, if they are concerned about their point total, that it's out of the total that you're actually assessing, right? Not including those hidden assignments. And then it comes down to, you know, just creating you know, either if you're using Blackboard's grading, you're just, you know, creating the weighted system that will calculate the grades according to whatever weights you put on them. So I know in my syllabus, it has, you know, particular weights. You may have adjusted those, you may have added some assignments, but I think, you know, I don't know if that helps at all. I think the only thing that's confusing people right now, or the biggest thing that's confusing people, are those hidden assignments, which unfortunately we cannot seem to delete for some unknown reason. Lumen says it's not on their end. Brian, I know, is looking into it for us. Does that help at all, Cindy? I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I don't know what everybody else's syllabus looks like. We were given a syllabus that had kind of a very strict 25% for this, 15% for that. And then I have all of these kind of numbers. But I guess I have to go through and figure out my point totals and then go back and put it back into that other set. But when I put it back into Blackboard, it's not like this information is being collected somewhere. As long as it makes sense to me and it can get into the banner grading, however we're doing that part of it, I don't need to explain to you specifically how I got there. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, so, well, I think, so what I would do is in Blackboard, you can make categories. So for example, let's say for your quizzes, if your quizzes are worth 25% total, you can create a category in Blackboard that says, you know, these are the quizzes, and then all of them together end up as, you know, 25%. The only thing, to my knowledge, that we may ask to look at in the future involves the financial management module, because that is a specific Title V like outcome that we need to measure. So what may happen in the future is that we're asked to demonstrate what the students did on the pre-test, meaning what they did in the study plan, versus what they did on their quiz. And so we may be asked to pull that data in some way, but that's just one module. That's already there in the system. To my knowledge, that's the only thing we're going to be asked to sort of show externally. Yeah. Great question, though. I appreciate that. And I do apologize for the problem with the grade book. I really don't know what's going on, and we are going to try to figure that out. Because those hidden assignments, they should be very easily deletable. Any assignment should be easily deletable from the grade book, but it's right now it's not happening. What else is on your mind?
Katie, I have a question. Does anybody know when we actually have to when Robin is going to require the grades? Nobody's told me in the science department when my dean doesn't want them in sooner. Does anybody know the date when they actually have to be for this first flex? The 7 weeks is over now.
I don't think we know. I don't. Let me email Robin. I'll just email her right now. But there's been no announcement to my knowledge.
Okay.
While you're emailing her, does anybody know how we're putting grades in? Is it going through Banner? How is that happening? Maybe another.
I'm almost positive it's Banner. So I think that's definitely going to happen. It's probably going to be Banner. I think it's pretty easy to do, from what I can tell. But I'll clarify that with her as well.
Thank you.
I did my grades in this over the summer through Banner, and it was very, very easy. Very easy. You just click on the class, final grade, and then you add the grades in as you go. It's actually easier than WebAdvisor. The other thing I wanted to share, so I've been getting the personal education plans throughout the week. And I created a folder in my Google Docs. So this way I actually save them there, and I have a folder for this semester. So this way, when the advisors want it, or when you figure out where you want them, I could just send the folder over to the advisor within our school. So I thought that would be like a good way to do it, because I didn't know where else to put them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So just to be clear, when the email comes in from the student, are you saving it like as a PDF, or you're?
Yes. So I'm saving it as I look at it, I grade it, and then I save it as a PDF within my Google Drive.
Yeah, great. And then and perfect. So then you'll be able to send it to the advisors whenever they get that figured out. Yeah. That's an awesome idea, Diana. Thanks. Yeah. Anything else is on people's minds? Anything they want to ask? Anything they want to add? So these conversation groups will continue because there will be an entire cohort. There are some people who haven't taught yet, right? They're teaching it for the first time. Like Angie's here, yay. And so we've got others. So, and some of us are teaching again. I know I'm teaching again. Cindy's teaching again. A few others are teaching again. So, we'll continue these conversation groups. Obviously, if you're not teaching in Flex 2, no pressure. You don't ever have to come to one of these, but we will continue this. We'll keep making the recordings available. Thank you so much for jumping on board this experiment, for doing it during a pandemic. You all are heroic as far as I'm concerned, and you're making this work. And I'm really, really curious to see what assessment reveals about this project. But what I know for sure is that we tried really hard to give our students some touch points during a really difficult time when they're feeling very isolated and they're not sure what's going on. And so I think you all have a lot to be really proud of, and I deeply appreciate you as colleagues. And so, thank you for everything you've done for the past, not just 7 weeks, but all throughout the summer to make this happen. So
thank you, Katie.
Stay safe, okay?
You have been an awesome facilitator, teacher, professor to us all, honestly.
Well, I had a great team.
Absolutely, what Xenia just said. You're amazing, Katie. Thanks so much for your support, emotional and otherwise.
Right back at you guys. So have a great night. Be safe, and we'll be in touch for sure. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Okay.